Hello artist, today we are going to have some fun with some of Kandinsky's favorite shapes. Now we've looked at some of his work and so we already know that he uses all kinds of different shapes. He uses lots of geometric shapes with the sharp clean edges as well as lots of organic shapes. Those are the shapes you find more often in nature. We also played Roller Kandinsky, so you've already had a chance to experiment with some of those shapes. Now we're going to make a collage. A collage is a piece of art that you make by sticking different materials together, and in our case we're going to be using these really cool handmade papers. You're going to select 3 pieces and you want them to sort of work well together. That could mean that the patterns are very similar or that the colors are very similar. Not necessarily matching, but you want 3 different types of paper that kind of go well together. Then you're going to turn them over and with a pencil start drawing some of those Kandinsky shapes we've gotten to know. They could be organic ones, they could be geometric ones, that's up to you. But you're going to draw on the back of all 3 of those papers so that you've got lots of shapes to work with. Now when you cut these out, the paper's a little bit soft, so make sure this is the spot that you use when you're cutting. That's the sharpest part and it will cut the paper better. All right, don't throw out any of the little extra bits because those pieces that seem to be extra bits could turn out to be the most interesting shapes you've got. Sometimes that's what happens. All right, so we cut out all the pieces and then you're going to start arranging them on your background. Now play around with these. You want them to be balanced. That means like not everything that's the same colors at one end, or all the pieces are at one end. You want some things overlapping. You want it to be interesting and balanced. Once you've arranged all those pieces, my suggestion would be to take a picture of it, because as you start gluing things down, you might forget where you picked them up from. So follow the picture that you took, and then you are going to glue them down using white glue. Try not to get it all over the background, but it does dry clear, so don't worry about it. And we are going to actually add some more glue to it. So this is what it'll look like when you're done. When it's dry, we're actually going to paint over it with some watery glue. There's a couple of reasons to do this. 1, to sort of hold down the edges, and 2, to make the paper a little stronger, because we're about to start poking holes in it. What do you say? Yes, we're going to poke holes in it. So we're making like dotted lines with a needle, and there's a piece of foam underneath it, so it makes poking the holes a lot easier. And I'm doing some swirly dotted lines, and I'm outlining other shapes and just coming up with my own ideas of swirly lines or dotted lines. Now we're going to sew in those dotted lines. So you're going to get a needle and thread. It can be a little tricky to thread the needle. Please try at least 3 times before you ask me or Miss Jojo for help. Then at the end, you're going to loop the end around your finger, and then you've got that little tail. You just simply pull that little tail through, give it a tug, and you have a knot at the end of your string now. So we always start sewing from the back. So I pull the needle through, give it a nice tug, but I don't want to tug it too hard, it might tear, so I actually take a little piece of tape and put a piece of tape on the back. And then you simply sew up and down. When you were a little kid, you probably had those sewing cards where you took like a shoelace and you had a picture with holes in it. It's the same idea. You just simply go up and down with the thread until you have completed your line. Now in this case, I was like, I need an extra hole so I can end on the back side. You always want to end on the back, start and end on the back. So then I turn it over and I simply take my needle and I'm going to go through the last stitch underneath it with the needle. And then that leaves us with this sort of loop of thread. I then take my needle and I go through that loop again. And again, just a nice gentle tug. Not too hard because you don't want to tear the paper. And again, I'm going to use another little piece of masking tape just to hold it in place, just in case. It's going to be on the back. Nobody's going to see it. It's going to be okay. All right, so that was just a sample piece I did for you, but I actually sewed all of the other sample, and I used both an off-white and a red thread in mine, and that's sort of what it looked like when it was done. And here's another one I did. I like the pink one better, actually. All right. I hope that you have fun. Go forth and be brilliant.